Hello, everyone. Welcome to Uncork. This is Holly.
And this is Gina.
And today...
I know. She is here.
She is.
I know. I'm excited.
She is. And we've been waiting for her. So she is the founder and CEO of a very cool company called Japa Health.
I know.
We're going to talk all about that.
Very
but
cool.
First of all, I want to say she's a corporate badass, Gina.
I know.
She comes from the corporate lineage.
I so want to ask many questions.
I know, but we don't want to talk about corporate today.
I know we don't, but that's a different day. We'll do that.
No, listen, a corporate badass, an entrepreneurial badass, a lifestyle brand, two of them exited.
Empire builder.
She is an empire builder. She's building one today for your health. I'm so excited to have her today. She's going to talk more about it, but I could go on and on. You know how it goes, Gina.
I do. But
when I start, I can't shut up.
The people want to hear from her.
The people want to know.
The people want to hear
so
from her.
We are so happy to have Sheryl Utal from Japa Health in the Uncorked house today. Welcome, Sheryl.
Thank you so much, ladies. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
We're so excited. And just for the audience, we have been praying for this day to come. We have been scheduling and schedules, scheduling is half the battle in anything these days.
And she's been patient
executive. With us, and we've been steadfast in getting this conversation done. And we are thrilled to have you today, Sheryl.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yes.
Really, truly honored. Thank you.
Thrilled. So what we like to do, Sheryl, is at the beginning of our podcast, kind of just lay a good foundation so that those that haven't checked you out yet, and they will after the conversation, no doubt, but give a quick little overview of yourself, your background. I mean, if you want to talk about the corporate stuff, you can talk about the corporate stuff, just for some of us to be interested in, but really kind of what led you to where you're at today and kind of what mission you're on for the group to listen to. And then we'll go from there.
So I consider myself a wounded healer. So there's like this archetype of a wounded healer, if you're familiar with that. So that is something that I feel like I fit into. So I'm 43 years old. And when I was 25, I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's, which is a super common autoimmune disease, probably the most common one, and it mostly affects women. And I was totally unconscious, which we'll talk about. I was in the wrong marriage. I was in the wrong job. I was living the wrong life. And I had yet to examine my truth. I didn't know what that was, and was just kind of living the life that I was told you're supposed to live, right? Like go to school, get a good job, get a good degree, marry a handsome man that makes money, move to the suburbs, buy a house, and voila, you're happy, right? Like that's your life. And I was doing that and checking boxes, and no, just no, it wasn't working. And so I was really sick and totally disconnected from myself and really, truly, deeply unhappy at a visceral level, searching for happiness outside of myself, and ended up in the hands of the allopathic medical model, and primarily for the autoimmune disease, and took the medicine that they told me to take, did what they told me to do, and fast forward a couple years, was worse, even more unhappy, even more disconnected, and set out on a mission out of desperation one day, because I looked in the mirror at a Christmas party and I just didn't even recognize myself. Like I had cut my hair to here, and because it was so thin, and I was just like pale and dry and tired and circles under my eyes. And I just thought that that's it. Like I had hit that wall where something had to change. And so I remember sitting down at the computer and starting to do research on what causes autoimmune disease. And that was the beginning of really the rest of my life. And so now, I don't even know how many years it's been, 12 or 13 or something like that. I haven't been on any medication. And at that time, back to your question about corporate, like on paper, I was doing really impressive things, right? Like if you look at the resume, it's like, ooh, impressive, managing hundreds of millions of dollars and real estate development and finance and private equity and blah, 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 blah. Like they're just big words. And at the end of the day, it's just, sitting at a desk and doing work with big numbers associated with it. But, under fluorescent lights in an office and in a position where I had yet to experience kind connection to my own voice and to connection to my own authenticity and my truth. So I didn't know how to speak up for myself. I didn't know how to say no to things. And I ended up like just completely burnt out, adrenal fatigue, in addition to the autoimmune disease, systemic yeast infections, heartburn, skin issues, hair loss, night sweats, severe anxiety. Like the list goes on. It was just, I was a mess. And so, fast forward, and now 43, haven't been on medication and have completely put my autoimmune disease in remission. And I founded a couple of companies and sold them. And then now I'm the founder of Japa Health. And so what I always like to say to people is, if I can do it, so can you. So it's not an easy magic wand solution. You don't just go buy a juicer and 30 days later your life is fixed. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
But I've been doing the work and on the path of learning and healing, and then sharing what I've learned with as many people as I can for 12, 13, 14 years now. And I became a yoga teacher, I think 2012 or something. And then 2013, I opened a yoga studio in LA that became very well known. It's called Red Diamond Yoga, and built a really beautiful community there, and became obsessed with being the best teacher that I could be. And so through that, I wanted to just learn as much as I could, and wanted to be able to teach in sort of a different way so that people could understand what was happening to them through the practice metaphysically, which I know you guys are big fans of that topic.
Absolutely.
Talking about the senses and energy and the neuroscience behind it, and the magnetic field of the body, and the aura, and the things that really transform and change as energy moves, and as you change your breathing patterns, and as you relax your nervous system. Because these were the things that were happening to me, that needed to happen in order for me to heal from the corporate burnout, the autoimmune disease, the divorce, and the toxic relationship. And so I became a teacher and opened this yoga studio, and just have been studying everything I possibly can, and learning from every teacher, from every experience, and then integrating and doing the work myself, and then synthesizing it all. And fast forward from opening that studio to selling it in 2018, and then starting Japa Health, which is really the evolution of everything that I've learned and everything that I've done and recognized to be missing in the world, as a tool to help people understand where they need to focus as they approach the journey of going inward, and of healing, and of doing the work. And so I built this platform that begins with a very thorough, as you know, because you've done it, assessment. And this assessment has 10 what we call determinants of health, and they're really the forces that influence your vitality, that influence your energy, right? The frequency and your well-being. And as you want to raise that, where do you look and where do you start? And so I created a place to start. It is a beautiful evaluation tool, and at the end you get basically a report. It's a summary report with a score, an overall score, and then a score for each of the 10 determinants. And that also offers suggestions for each one of the 10. Some of them you would totally assume, like nutrition, and sleep. Some of them you wouldn't, like relationships and detoxification and vision. Like there's a category called vision, and not to be confused with your eyesight. Like we're talking about how you see yourself, how you see the world, your perception, your attitudes, your beliefs. This is more about a spiritual practice. And so you get a score for each one of the 10, and then suggestions. And this is an early stage startup. I've raised over 7 figures for this startup and continuing to raise funding for it. And so this is the beginning of what I see as a big, huge game changer in public health, and in our ability to navigate the overwhelm that exists when it comes to, how do I feel better? How do I live a happier, healthier, more resilient, joyful life? How do I get off medication? How do I overcome my own personal obstacles? And how do I become the change that I want to see in the world? And to me, it's all about consciousness at the end of the day, because I feel like where we are sick is where we are unconscious. And the disease itself, the symptoms, the pain, the suffering is the invitation to look at what's not working. And so that's what the assessment and the platform seeks to do. And it's so much bigger than that. But that in a nutshell, that's me. That's me. I live in Laguna Niguel, and I love the sun, and I love sharing what I'm passionate about. And that's why I'm here.
I love
thank God for that.
I know.
Honestly.
Okay. So
thank God you do.
What I have to say about the vitality assessment, and I love the assessment. You need to have a little chunk of time because there are all those categories, 10 categories. And so
like when you say a little chunk of time, like, are we talking like a
long time ago? Because we've been like,
yes. Oh yes.
Pacing ourselves for her for a long time.
I know.
It was like, how long do you think it takes? About half hour?
Half hour? Yeah. That's
30 minutes?
20 to 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. And the more people do it, the better it is. Like you're really, if you do the assessment, which I hope everybody will try, not just to help Japa, but because it's really insightful. Like the questions themselves are super interesting and insightful.
It's free.
It's totally free.
Yes. We'll put the link in the show notes. Yep.
Yeah. And it really is an automation of, if you were to go and seek a naturopathic doctor, a health coach, a relationship coach, and it's all of these questions that they would come out of those kinds of consultations.
So it's almost like an intake form almost, right?
Correct.
Of all the different pieces of your life.
Exactly. It's a life assessment. And then there's an algorithm behind it. And the more people participate in this, the better the suggestions will get. And from a big data perspective and a big tech perspective, there's so much out there that's being used against you to manipulate you, to get you to buy stuff or feel bad about yourself. And that is the exact opposite of Japa Health. So the intention behind Japa Health is pure empowerment and pure sovereignty. So, we never take anybody's data. We never use it against you. It's all anonymized. But the more people that do it, the more correlations and insights we can derive between the things that cause people pain and why, right? And why, because we're asking the questions. So we can actually get better at addressing the root cause of why we suffer by looking at the aggregated insights that we discover.
Wow.
And I know intuitively, I already know what it is, but being able to prove it through data science will empower us as a company to actually make real changes in the healthcare system and in public health and in the corporate worlds and employers. In so many different ways, we'll be able to influence the way people think about well-being by being really honest about what it is that affects our well-being.
Absolutely.
Well, and some people, you're right. Some people will not understand the detox and when you go through like the pesticides or the mold or whatever. There were so many questions. It was like, I took it in the winter. So nature ended up being the lowest for me, nature and hydration.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because winter, we're in Seattle and it's rainy all the time. I don't like going out, but if I was in Cali with you, I'd be at the beach too. So like, I think that was just seasonal. Now I would say I'm out all the time, but so it's an interesting thing because we were talking a little bit before we hit record. And for me, I had no idea what gut issues are. And we talk about gut health. And of course you cover that in your assessment. I didn't know that like I had problems. I mean, I knew I had problems all the time. I just thought that they're there. And if you go traditional medicine, you just go to a GI, they give you, well, I don't know. They didn't even give you digestive enzymes back then. And then of course my thyroid fell out, I don't know if it's considered a autoimmune, but I was corporate, corporate, go in 4 a.m, get stuff done 70 hours a week. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so I was living that life and I didn't even know. So if I had this assessment and took this, and the assessment's fun, actually. It's not like it's a fun thing and the report's cool.
It's
and
exploratory probably, right?
Yeah,
it helps you kind of think really through.
Are cool. And so I think I would have looked at life a little differently and looked at my health a little differently. So I was saying that not only is it the call to action for today is everybody go there and take the assessment. It is an investment in your health. It's investment in your future. And so,
and it's a beautiful reframing of health. I think so many people, myself included, for a very long time, thought of health in the medical term only. Like if I was sick, that would be healthcare to me, and without thinking about all the other components of life, like outdoor and nature, as really critical to my health and well-being. I don't think many people think with it framed up in that way. And I think that really, to your point, if you're exposed to something like this that puts these packages, all of it together
right
earlier in life, then you're going to pay it. What's going to, when the alarm bells start going off in life, you're going to pay attention to a much broader set of data points than I ever did.
These variables, right? These variables that,
Yep.
and it's like, how do you balance everything? Like, it's freaking overwhelming, and then you start to think about like everything in your life, everything that you do, and you don't even know where to start. So the intention for me behind everything that I built with Japa Health really is to remove the overwhelm, right? It's super overwhelming. It's like, do I focus on sleep? Do I focus on diet? What do I do? More yoga? What do I do? What do I do? And do I meditate? What kind of meditation do I do? Like, how do I know if it's working? I mean, there's just too many things, too many factors.
Yeah.
So that's really the overwhelm that we're seeking to address. But what I love that you said is that, everything is connected, right? And it's all these different things, like being outside, things that you don't think about. And it's not anybody's fault. I didn't think about it either. But when I look back on how I was living my life and the environment that I was in when I worked in a corporate job under fluorescent lights, and I wasn't exposed to natural light, which I know a lot more people talk about these days because that was in my early 20s, it's almost 20 years ago now. So there's still a lot more awareness than there was. Sure. Nevertheless, it's not enough, right? It's not enough. We need to talk more about gut health. We need to talk more about the environment that we're in. And the environment also includes your thoughts. So this is a really cool concept. This is really, really cool concept. So for your audience, there is something called epigenetics, right? You guys know what this is? Epigenetics?
Yes, but please explain.
Yes,
yes,
give us a little.
So just, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. I'm just a very, very curious and like super nerd. I'm a super nerd when it comes to all this stuff, right? So I study it all. So epi means above, right? So when you're talking about Latin, right? Epi means above. So epigenetics just means you are above your genetics. It's the idea that we used to think that whatever genes you had is what determined your life, right? This was genetic determinism, right? And this is Darwinism, essentially.
And absolutely.
We thought, well, my dad had heart disease, so, I'm going to get heart disease, or everyone in my family had this, and I'm going to have that. And epigenetics tells a different story. Epigenetics tells a story that you actually have creative power and creative authority over the expression of your genes, of your genetics. And it is informed, it's actually called the biology of belief. And one of my favorite doctors and scientists to study from, whom I've never met but will, is a man named Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lipton, yeah.
Dr. Bruce Lipton, yeah. And so starting to become aware of these types of energies in your life, not just the things that you can see, okay? I'm talking about the food on your plate or the water in your glass or how many steps you take or whatever, even your sleep tracker, right? Like these are things that you can like see and measure, but what about the things that you can't see? This is when we start talking about the metaphysical. This is when we start talking about your attitude, your belief, the light that you're exposed to, how you breathe, the people that you're around, because their energy field influences yours. The words that they use and the frequency of the things that they say influences you and your field, and the vibration and energy of everything that makes you in your auric fields and your magnetic field of your heart, which has neurons, which perceives and receives information, just like the gut and just like the brain. And so starting to open up a conversation about how all of these things affect how we feel, what we're able to create, what we're able to attract into our lives. Right? All of these things matter. And that is why, for me, the assessment and the score that you get is about your vitality. It's not health. Like to me, vitality is about is energy, right? Right. Like we're trying to raise, right, the vitality here. And then we have to evaluate everything. We've got to take a step back and really evaluate our lives and do it in a way that has a methodology to it, so that we can, I mean, there's that old expression, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
So let's measure it. Let's manage it. Let's take a look at it. Let's have a system to actually approach what we do, how we're doing it, so that we can bring awareness to it. Because if you're not aware of it, then
Yeah.
how can you make it better?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love vitality because
like it too.
vitality
Yeah.
is like, it's like, you don't have to wait for something to happen to look at this. It's
Yes.
like, it's not like your path. We
Right.
don't want people to have our path or
No.
your path.
Yep.
In fact, what you're
No.
doing here with Japa Health is saying, okay, be vital now. Vital.
Preventative.
Is like, let's all be vital every day. We want to start every day like that. It's not like I'm waiting for the shoe to fall, my hair to fall out to go do something, right?
It's so true.
And that's why we were talking about like backing this up. I want to go back to epigenetics, but
I do
backing
too.
this up to a young age. So that younger people start on this journey. And it's almost like a cultural shift.
It is.
That these are the things that we need to look at. These are the things that we should test beyond just an assessment, but a blood test or these types of things to support this kind of information. So I think that that's really, really important.
Well, and I do think, we were raised by a generation that very much had a bit more traditional view on healthcare and what wellness is. And I think took more of a backseat in general, took a backseat to the thought process that, we have more free will in life versus this, you come from this, therefore you're going to follow a similar pattern in your life. I mean, there is, and I do
that's
feel like
victim consciousness.
Victim conscious, 1000%. And I do feel like we're quickly getting out of that. And I think the generations below us are really pushing any victim mentality or any sort of form or
they're
structure.
Coming here smarter than we are.
Yeah,
they
for
really
sure.
Are. Yeah.
And we should continue to leverage that to shift the way people think about the free will they have with their own life and wellness and vitality. I love it. Okay.
What do you think?
Power.
Yeah.
Power.
We have so much freaking power.
That is it. That's what we like. That's our
Perfect.
tagline, conscious creation. We are consciously creating every day, every minute. And, we can choose how to create that. And we are.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so we can direct it and change how we think and make sure that we're in power of doing that. But
yes.
So I want to ask you, since I love like the medical research nerdy thing.
Yes.
I kind of love
from
that
one
myself.
nerd to the other, right? I mean, she's like, oh, I found a friend.
I know. And so, so
I can't
what
keep up.
do you think about trauma? Oh, yes, you can. What do you think about trauma being stored in the body? And then do you think that there is a link between your ancestors coming in, what they gift you? And I know we're talking about genetics here, but I'm almost talking about like, the trauma from your ancestors coming in through your DNA. And what are your thoughts around that?
I absolutely think that that's true.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what our work here is.
Yeah.
As individuals. I believe that we're here to learn how to love and to learn how to reprogram the lessons and the codes that we inherited that have kept us stuck and limited and made us sick. And that breaking that pattern is the best thing that you can do for the planet, for humanity, for your ancestors, for the collective. So I think there's a lot of research on this. I'm sure I've read a lot of it. Probably not going to be able to quote it here, but there has been proof, right? Like I think they've done some studies in rats where trauma makes genetic changes. It makes real physiological changes. Like I think it's as many as 6 generations, maybe more. Don't quote me on that, but that's all been researched, right? So we know that it has an imprint and an effect. And what I like to believe is that you're not responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for how you manage it and how you alchemize it and how you transmute that. And that the way to do that is through the nervous system, and it is a somatic experience, and that you can't just think your way out of it, because that trauma does live in the body, and that the body is the subconscious mind. So that's why, even though I think therapy can be really, really helpful, it can't end there.
Right.
It can't end there, and that you have to go into flow state. You have to actually change the frequency of your brainwave so that you have access to the operating system and the program that's running. And then you have to have a somatic experience, like an actual physical experience where you can move energy and you can feel sensations that arise, and then start to change the story and release what is stuck and what is there and what is running the show, right? So this is like what we would call it the default mode, right? Like the default mode that's always there, that's running in the background. Well, how do you get access to that default mode so that you can change it? Right? It's like if you if your phone is slow or your computer is slow and you're like, well, why the heck is it slow? Why isn't it working? Right? And then you realize you have like 17 different programs running and they're all running in the background. And so you can go and slowly close each one of those programs and suddenly their performance is better, right? And so how do we get access to look and evaluate and take inventory of what are the programs that are running? And there's ways to do that, to get into a flow state. Yoga, meditation, walking. I mean, there's so many different ways to do that, but we have to go in and be able to recognize what those traumas are. We have to be able to objectively identify them and then understand that that's not us. We inherited that.
Right.
We inherited that. And when we're able to look at it with love and look at it with compassion and look at it with gratitude, like, okay, thank you for this opportunity to do this work, rather than from, again, the victim point of view, how powerful it is that we can then reframe that story and say, well, I actually have the ability to make a change in my subconscious. I actually have an ability to make a change in my belief system. I can start to question, well, where did that belief even come from? Was it mine to begin with? And this is like the process of, going in and doing the work. And for me, the somatic work has been more important than any of the, talk therapy or journaling or anything. And everyone's different, but the nervous system regulation and the ability to deeply attune my awareness to how my nervous system responds to my own thoughts. Like I might have a thought and feel a contraction, like just from the thought itself, right? My breath might change, my vision might change.
Oh yeah.
I might feel a tightness in my throat, a tightness in my gut, right? And so that right there, when you feel that, when you're able to practice enough awareness that you can recognize when that's happening, that when you're triggered or whatever, you'll feel that in your nervous system. To me, that's the beginning of unpacking the inherited trauma or even the lived trauma, to be honest with you. I'm not sure that there's necessarily a different approach. Like that's the beginning of being able to address, like, where does it feel in your body? How does it feel? When does it come up? Does it come up when you have a thought? Does it come up when you're around certain people in a certain environment, when you watch something on the news or listen to a certain song, or, starting to identify when and how you feel a sense of physical contraction and where do you store it? Like, is it tightness in the shoulders? Do you feel it in the jaw? Like I get like this, I have the thyroid autoimmune. So like I get this pressure in my throat, some people may feel it in their gut. Like it's going to be different for everyone. But I believe that the body doesn't lie.
No.
The body knows. I mean, there's that very famous book, The Body Keeps Score, right?
Yeah.
So being able to bring enough awareness to when and how you feel those things, and then just get really curious about it and breathe and move and try to find ways to release it out of your body. And at the same time, evaluate the story. And you got to really dig deep on this. It takes time.
Yeah, it's onions. It's
evaluate
layers.
The story. Evaluate the story that's attached to that feeling.
Right.
Because there's a story, right, that goes along with, and for me, the worthiness, the unworthiness, and the fact that like certain things are just a struggle, right? Like that's a program that I've had to continuously revisit, that it doesn't have to be a struggle.
Right.
And a belief, like a subconscious belief that there is enough to go, there is abundance, and I am worthy, right? And then being able to relax my nervous system enough into that belief and into that understanding is how I have approached the ancestral trauma and this incarnation trauma. And I 100% believe it's a universal thing. Like there's nobody that escapes that. Like it's not like
Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody.
Agreed.
I'm glad that you
no,
said that because I was like, if you think you didn't have any trauma, because I used to think that too. Our definition of trauma
right.
is wrong. Like it was very limited. And so
Well, I remember
everybody
I
has
saying to
trauma.
you one time, I feel like I might have forgot some. I know I have it, but I don't know where it comes from.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And so, yes, because I don't,
So everybody has
has
this.
it.
We're on a journey. We're humans
Yep.
on a journey. And the other thing that you said, I think that was really incredible, was in the beginning, you said you're a wounded healer. And we had, so everybody, I mean, if you don't believe in astrology, it's fine, but Chiron, everybody has a Chiron, and they have the wounded healer. We have Lisa Tahir on our show. She wrote The Chiron Effect, which actually shows you, okay, if your Chiron's in Aries, it's worthiness. It's like you actually came designed to have that wound.
Yep.
And it expresses itself in different ways for different people,
Yep.
you know. But if you don't even believe in that, we still know everybody has trauma because we're humans on a journey.
Right.
And the other thing that we know that we'll bring it back to health is that if you work on that helps your health today and in the future. It's a long-term investment too. Wouldn't you say that as well? Yeah.
It's we talk about disease span, and we have a disease span and a health span, right? Like,
Right,
you know, and I don't really like to look at it from this standpoint, not to criticize you, but you use the word prevention, and I'd like to reframe that
let's
word.
do it.
Yeah.
And I think that the word is optimization. Like, why are we here? Why are we alive? Why are we here? Because we want just like to settle. We want some like mediocre status quo life. Is that what we really want? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. So I would like to approach it rather than like, well, I don't want to get sick later, which is true. I don't. Like, I don't want cognitive decline. I don't want to have any pain and suffering when I'm older. Of course, I don't want that. But more important than that, I want to feel as amazing as I can feel right now.
Optimized.
Today. I want to
Optimized
live
vitality.
the best fucking life I can.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, that prevention
that's perfect
to me speaks to the old model of healthcare. That speaks to me. Like, I don't want to get sick because that's all we were treating in my
I don't want to end up in the doctor's office.
Right. Yeah. Versus what you're saying is optimization, which is this more holistic look of vitality and life. It is this bigger bucket of consideration and pieces of the puzzle that absolutely will impact you, and you will have to be preventative if you don't solve and optimize all these other components. I don't think people always think of as well-being and health. I just don't. I just don't. And I think we're getting there, but
people are busy, you know, and like they're putting fires out left and right. They've got, you know, everything that we all have, emails and errands and bills, and you know what I mean? We've got all the things that
all the life things.
Life is hard,
100%.
right?
And I love it. Optimization. Hell yes.
And inside of all that, inside of the busyness and inside of the work and inside of making time for everything that's important to you, you'll never be as young as you are right now.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? So let's make the most of it right now. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, my goal really is to go backwards. Like Benjamin Button. So I always say, well, I'm going backwards. So today I'm older than I will be tomorrow. That's what I say. But
what I am hearing you say is if you optimize,
you can go back. I think
you can go back. I know how I feel today sitting here at this age, and I won't be any younger in age, but I know I will feel.
Yeah, that's true.
Younger and better and more optimized.
Well, how about this? You're only as old as your energy.
Yeah,
I believe in that.
There you go. Yes, that is. I mean, so yeah, exactly.
So what can we do? What can we do to optimize our energy? Where do you learn that? Who taught you that?
You have to discover it on your own. You have to be like a metaphysical geek to go figure that one out. How did you figure it out? Nobody taught me that.
15 plus years of studying.
Just sleuthing.
15 plus years of studying and trying things. And, you know, being a guinea pig on myself. And then getting lab tests and then getting wearable devices and tracking and testing and, you know, dabbling in what would be considered like the quantified self movement, you know, and really studying what Japa Health is based on is a field of science. It's like a super fancy way of saying mind-body connection, but it's okay. Follow me, you guys ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready. neuroendocrine immunology. Psycho neuroendocrine immunology. Have you heard this?
No.
Okay, so psycho, these are our thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. Neuros is our nervous system.
Yeah.
Endo, our endocrine system, and immuno is our immune system. And the idea that they're inseparable is what Japa Health is based on. And so we were told for a long time that, yoga is woo woo and snake oil this and snake oil that. And, these things aren't as effective because you can't really measure it. But we're at a beautiful time right now where there's this convergence of science and spirituality. And there's this convergence of Eastern and Western, and it's being treated with the respect and the validity that it deserves, that our ancestors and finally that we've known for millennia, and we're finally coming back to that. And it has been absolutely imperative for me in my own journey, in my healing and clearing of it. I'm still working on it, the ancestral trauma and my own biology of belief and my own subconscious, and the things that I do every day, how I talk to myself, how I breathe, how I move, how I drop into my heart and why that's important, and how I start to really feel into the energy of others when I'm speaking to them. What tone of voice do I use? What kind of language do I use? And all of this has been so important to me to recognize that it's not just what you can see, but it's also what you can't see, and that spirit and energy need to be a bigger part of the conversation. And so I've been studying it, but even still feel like a student after 15 plus years that I've been teaching all of this, and will always remain, I think, a student first. But it's too much for most people in their busy lives, especially if they're not forced to, right? So if you're not faced with a health crisis, like I was faced with a health crisis, like I had no choice, right? But if you're just someone that has and even if you are, of course, Japa Health is a great place to start. But if you just kind of have okay, my gut doesn't feel great and I don't have good energy and I have really bad PMS, or, my back hurts all the time. It's kind of these are not for acute issues. Right? This is not like I have an ingrown toenail and I need to go see someone to have it removed, right? This Japa Health is for, chronic, systemic discomfort and pain and suffering that a lot of times you can't put your finger on why.
Yeah.
Right? And I think what's been missing is a conversation around psychoneuroendocrine immunology, and in having a platform that's accessible to all. Because when I was first on this journey, I was coming out of divorce, and I was coming out of getting laid off from the 2008 debt crisis. I had no money. As a matter of fact, I was on food stamps.
Oh, wow.
And living with my parents. And it was a really hard time for me. And I didn't have $500 to go to spend on a naturopath for initial visit and then go get lab tests. I didn't have insurance.
Right.
And then, where do you go when you don't have the resources to seek for alternative health and well-being? What are you going to just Google it? Help.
No,
I need help.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean, it's a real issue.
Well, we talk about this a lot, there's so much of that Eastern modality, some, the broader brush of ways to get help. So much of it is not accessible to many from a cost standpoint. Yeah.
And so that's a big part of my mission is to make this kind of information accessible to everybody, so that they can understand how to make the evaluation, how to actually, what questions to ask themselves. They can understand what really creates health. So Japa Health has a content platform. That's not live yet, but it will be integrated soon with short user-generated videos from experts.
Amazing.
Kind of like TikTok videos, right?
Yeah.
That create education. It's about psychoneuroendocrine immunology. And how you feel and what you think and what you believe and how you eat. And, let's stop looking at macros so much, not saying that you shouldn't. Let's stop looking at macros so much. And what about the energy that food carries? Where was that food grown? Under what sunlight? And is that in alignment with the sunlight that you're living under? Because that's information. That light is information. And are you right? So really starting to go
we don't think like that.
Yes.
This is a culture change. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
You think about it. I mean, honestly, whether you're religious or not, we used to pray over our food and alchemize the food. So maybe we didn't get it from the best light source, but if you pray over it, Voila.
Oh, well, and there was
Okay,
always
there's none of
gratefulness,
that or
gratefulness for
gratitude
those
or-
who put,
Yeah,
you know,
what happened to all
farmers
this?
and
No.
the soil and all, you
We're
know,
in
the
the car
system.
eating, okay, or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
you're
know.
absolutely
Yeah.
right. You're
Like
you
absolutely
know,
right.
that's
mindlessly, just like shoving
mindless.
it in your face. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, I shared a video of this cute little turtle eating this beautiful
I was gonna
salad.
say the turtle.
And I was like, Gina, we need to eat like this. I mean, he was, and they put a microphone so you could hear him munching. It was the most
Oh my gosh,
delightful
cute.
thing. Why do we think that's delightful? It's the
It's
energy
beautiful
and the
and the energy,
beautiful
yeah.
and the mindfulness that the turtle was eating. I mean, seriously. I mean, this is
But he
was.
wasn't in a hurry. Like
he
he was
wasn't
not
in a hurry.
no,
No.
get to the next
We
thing.
weren't in a hurry. We were waiting for you to get on. I literally just showed it to her while we were sitting here.
And she goes, now that's how I need to eat.
I know.
That kind of beautiful food with that level of appreciation and attention to it.
Presence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Presence.
Yes.
Presence,
And
yes.
so I feel like with Japa Health, you have a movement afoot. Okay. This is what I feel
Absolutely.
like. And so what is your vision for the company, for
The movement.
the movement, for the movement?
The movement.
Yes.
I love that.
I mean, it's 1 billion people living in alignment with their truth in a heart-centered way, in awareness of what depletes them and what elevates them in a way that they're conscious creators over their reality. I mean,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, it's a big vision.
Yeah,
It's a big vision. Yeah.
And you're going to work with, are you going to work with employers? Because I was saying, like, she's the head of an HR, corporate HR, and you guys have started to incorporate some of the naturopathy and some of the other stuff, but not 100%.
Really tough.
And there's a wellness program. So like, are you trying to infiltrate all of the large corporations and the systems to
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of what I would speak to as our go-to market strategy. So just to reiterate again, I mean, we're pre-revenue, we're a startup. The assessment right now is free. We are fundraising again. We have a crowdfunding campaign that's live. I've raised $1.2 million. It's mostly all been invested in the infrastructure, in the technology, in the algorithm, in the content platform. And, you know, it takes capital to, to create innovation and to disrupt industries and to be able to bring this to the world. And so there are a whole bunch of features that we will be building out. And when we are ready to officially go to market, I mean, I have letters of intent from companies, but when we are officially ready to launch, one of our primary channels will be employers. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent.
For monetizing through that.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
Excellent.
sure.
I love
that.
I
mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, and when we're looking at the culture of our entire society, like the fabric of our entire society, so much of it is influenced by our work and our work environment and our working relationships. So much of it. So if we can change the culture there and change the conversation there, and one of my intentions is and I've done some work already with CEOs, is to do more directly with leaders. A lot of times I'm asked to come in and do a workshop on vision, on intention, on these kinds of topics. And I just did one recently here in Orange County. It was like for 15 really high-powered leaders, and they were all men, by the way. I did one for women too, but to be able to teach these principles so that they can then live it and embody it.
I love that.
I think is the best way to catalyze the change, because then they understand what it is that's being offered to the organization.
Sure.
And they can represent that from a leadership perspective.
Model the way. I mean, I do think, you know, when we talk about systems, especially in a corporate environment, it's still very much the employee base will model what they see up the chain, right? And leadership. So if you can have leaders embodying this more broad perspective on vision and well-being and all the, you know, vitality, and they can share that with others, and it automatically gives credence to everyone else that's accepted in the workplace, which I do feel like so much of people don't go to work and they're not themselves often at work. The fullness of who you are to show up authentically, and when you're showing up, to your point, in something that is, you know, such a big part of your life in an inauthentic, shut down way, that will make you sick too.
It will. And it did for me.
Yep.
I mean, that
Yep.
was my exact experience. It absolutely
Exactly.
made me sick. You know, it almost killed me, to be really honest with
Yeah.
you.
I
And
bet.
so much of it is just like, I mean, I'll say it over and over again. It's just an awareness of, you know, am I coming from the heart or am I coming
Yeah.
from judgment?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
love cannot exist where judgment is present. Right. So,
Mm.
you know, and
Mm-hmm.
love is one of those things that like can kind of make people uncomfortable. You start talking about love
Particularly
and
in
they
the
think about
workplace with the
Yep.
CEOs.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you think about like romantic love first and foremost when you talk about love, and some people misperceive the determinant relationships in the Japa Health methodology as to be exclusively about romantic relationships.
Right.
It's not.
No.
This is
Mm-mm.
about how do we relate to others in general. This is our family, our neighbor, our coworker, our significant other, our parents, our kids, everything. And how we
Exactly.
relate to others is arguably one of the biggest influences on our overall well-being.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprised.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's so much to unpack in that conversation
Oh, yeah.
alone, just
Oh,
in that
yeah.
conversation about, yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
but just imagine leaders like leading
Yeah.
from the heart
Yeah.
and non-judgment, and everybody in the management team holding them all accountable.
Mhm.
Because honestly, most people are miserable and leave because of their supervisor,
Mhm.
including the CEO.
Yeah.
Including the CEO.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a
Ain't that
study
the
that
truth?
just came out. There was a study that just came out. Everyone's been talking about it. It was done by Deloitte. There's just this week, I was bombarded by emails from like all the newsletters that I get. There was like
Yeah.
a summary of all this information, and there were a few main points and statistics about how miserable people are at work. Basically, like anybody can just go look it up. I don't have them in front of me, but
Mhm.
and the reasons for it, right? The reasons for it, and a lot of it, if I look at it from my perspective, and especially my experience in corporate
Mhm.
America, a lot of it can be solved just by the attitude of the company culture, and that comes from top down, you know. And when those people are embodied in a more spiritual practice and in a more heart-centered way of understanding that we're all connected, and how you access your heart and your right brain and not just your left brain, right? The judgment and the logic and the reason that comes from the left brain is very important in business. You know,
Yes.
that pattern
Yeah.
recognition and
Mhm.
that, you know, analytical mind is very important in business for sure. Trust me. I mean, I was an analyst for a long time,
Mhm.
but the more that we're able to find balance between that left brain and the right brain, to be able to integrate the right brain and drop into the heart, I think the healthier we'll all be.
Yep.
And starting from the top is
Absolutely.
really important.
Yeah.
So this is my call to anybody that's in a position of power right now. Reach out to me.
I love that.
Okay.
I just feel like
Absolutely.
we need to go out there and start getting those read those executive
I
teams
agree. I
and send
agree.
them to Japa Health after
I-
we raw them,
I agree.
get
I
them in their
couldn't agree
hearts,
more.
and then send them along.
Yep.
I feel a calling.
I
So,
mean, you got to teach people that, you know, the what, which is the analytics of business. That's important. I mean, that's not going to ever go away. And that
you got to
there
appeal
does
to the
come
left
with some
brainers,
judgment.
you
There's
know?
some decision making that
Yeah.
is involved in when you do that, but it's the how you do it
Yeah.
that is
Mhm.
will change the way the world and the employees that work for you in a just a profound way.
Mhm.
If we can change the corporate standard on how. It's not the what. We're not changing the
Mhm.
what. The what kind of is the same. It's the how you do it that
It's
needs
the
to
how you
change.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the how you do it. And
The heart
everybody
and
has the ability to embody this type of practice. And it's a practice, right? Like
Mhm.
I often say,
Absolutely.
like, I know how the game is played. Doesn't mean I play a perfect game every time, right? So I'm human. I mess
We're
up.
all-
I say
yeah.
the wrong things. I judge, right? Like sometimes I judge myself. You know,
Mhm.
it's not that just because I'm not standing on my soapbox saying like, oh, I figured it all out and I'm
Right.
perfect.
Yeah,
But what
right.
I have
Absolutely.
figured out is what is the path of practice.
Yeah.
And to just keep coming back to that path of practice and keep showing up over and over again, studying it, understanding it, integrating it, and then just doing your best every day. And if more leaders did that, then I would be such a huge shift would happen.
Amazing.
Yeah, and having people around you that can help you be accountable, and that you don't like it, you're in a trust and a faith
Mhm.
that they're saying that for your highest good. And so
Mhm.
when you have that, that is just pure
Beautiful.
fucking magic.
It is.
Okay,
That's
like
that's we
yeah.
worked together
in
and that's
corporate, yeah.
in corporate, and that was exactly what we
Yeah,
did as
yeah.
partners for
Mhm.
one another. It was
That's
a
beautiful.
beautiful gift.
It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
it really was.
Mhm.
So, okay, we want to be respectful of your time, but we are excited about you and what you're creating. And it's so exciting being the startup phase and exhilarating and scary. And
I think Holly wants to jump on board and
I
help.
love the startup because like there's so much
love a startup.
crazy,
Oh, it's
cool
fun.
energy. But I do want to ask you one last thing, and then you can add whatever else is, what can our podcast audience do to support you? What can we do to support you?
Well, thank you, first of all, for asking that. Go take the assessment and ask 5 people that you know to take the assessment, please.
Perfect.
Because the more people that take it, the better. And then I can also give you guys the link to our crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
Love to.
For those of you that aren't aware, there has been a massive shift in capital allocation for innovation in the last year, especially. And there's been a huge contraction, and a lot of money is sitting on the sidelines, but for macroeconomic reasons, it has become increasingly more difficult to raise money the ways in which money had previously been raised for startups, which was mostly through venture capital funds and through institutions. That's what they do, is they invest money. And it has been increasingly challenging. And I'll also say, and I try not to give too much power to this, but it is part of the reality. Somewhere around 2 or less than 2% of all venture investment for startups goes to women. So I try not to give too much power to that, but it's sort of feels like, you know, another layer of challenge and complexity. And I've had success. The investor that led my last round is a public company. They invested $1 million in my last round. So it's not that I haven't done it. I know it's possible, but funding support for what we're doing is a huge way in which you can get involved. Take the assessment and go to the Net Capital link. So we have a crowdfunding campaign on a platform called Net Capital, and I'll provide you guys with the link. The minimum investment is $100. And it's not a donation, it is an investment. So by investing $100 or more, as much as you can, you become an owner. You become an equity owner, and you own shares. You own shares in Japa Health. And so if you believe in the need for this, and if you believe in me as the founder and CEO and my team, which is a brilliant and impressive team, and what we've built so far, then please, you know, get behind us and spread the word. We need support now in that respect. Make introductions. You can send me an email directly to me. It's easy. It's Sheryl@japa.health. If there's a company that you know or a partner that you know, that would be great for us for our marketplace, or a collaborator in any way. If you want to be a teacher on the platform, anything that you think resonates with you in order to get involved, whether that's just simply taking the assessment or going and making an investment, emailing me a contact information of somebody that you think would be a good partner. There's a lot of ways. It's an early stage company, and help is appreciated wherever we can get it.
In any way possible.
All right. I love that. Okay. We'll have everything. We got everything in the show notes.
Yes.
And is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we regrettably have to let you go?
At least this time. At least this time.
Don't settle.
Don't settle.
Yeah, I'll come back for sure.
Optimize.
Don't settle. Don't settle. Don't settle at all in any aspect of your life. Do not settle. You are worthy, and you are powerful, and you are capable of anything. And don't settle for less. Do not.
Okay, that's an over and
Well,
out.
I
Everybody.
think,
That's a mic drop.
Everybody, many people needed to hear that today.
So delightful having you today. Thank you for your work. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for everything you've gone through. I look at your journey, and I just bless the path that, you know, you started on, and how you're trying to change things, and we're all with you. So thank you so much. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, ladies, you guys are super awesome. I love your energy. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great.
We'll do